All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Powered by Intuition. Oh my goodness, it has been a day. If you are feeling it, it's not just you. There is a lot of just chaos in the air, and oh my goodness grace, it's all in how you navigate that. So let me start out with, if you have not yet picked up the journal that I have created, please do so right now or get it soon. If you are on the tube of you, oh wow, it is really trying to have me pay for stuff on the other platform that I'm straining on. Um, Coming back to it, if you have not gotten that, I suggest you get that now because we are in for some fun. First and foremost, I just kind of want to set the template. Well, let's clear the air first because it has been a nonstop day. I mean, good things abound. It has been a hugely abundant, prosperous time period for me, but it's like boom, 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 boom. It's back to back to back. And so I am going to stand in the gratitude of that prosperity and be thankful and grateful for it. Because if we are not, that's where we lead to the problems. If we're not seeing what is right in front of us, those gifts, and we just kind of ignore it, you're not following that pathway to what really matters. So let me explain. Let me explain this in terms of let's humanize, and that's going to be kind of a theme. Obi, can you move your butt? Thank you. Let's humanize the universe, right? So let's say I am the universe. I would love to get the universe on this other platform, but whatevs. Fight Daily Mail. That'd be interesting. Um, Hello, Saint. Thank you for joining. So let's take manifestation in this ideology. And I think manifestation is kind of a term that is just like, it's going out the window because it doesn't work for a lot of people. And here's why. And this is, also connected to the universal moral codes, which is what I'm going to be talking about. If I give you a gift, let's name myself the universe right now. If I give you a gift, and let's say I give this to you, right? Whatever that is, and you completely ignore it, and you're like sitting there. Let's say, let's do this. Say you're saying, I need a pair of pliers, needle nose pliers, to get some things done around the house, and I just need a pair of needle nose pliers. And I go, here, have a pair of needle nose pliers. Maybe they're a little rickety, they're not the best, but it's something. They're needle nose pliers, right? And you go, those aren't the ones that I want. I said I wanted new needle nose pliers. I can't believe you tried giving me this. What is even that? I don't care about that. That's not what I wanted. That's not what I asked for. And I'm sitting here going, I thought you wanted a pair of needle nose pliers. I gave you a pair of needle nose pliers and you just effectively took a turd all over that gift. So how am I going to feel now when I give you this gift and you completely reject it and you completely are like ignore it, like it doesn't even exist? How is a person to feel? Kind of feels terrible, doesn't it? It feels really bad. Why would I ever give what you ask of me if you're going to just reject it, throw it in my face, and act like it doesn't exist? And this is kind of when you humanize the universe. I'm just using that term loosely, whatever you want to call it, God, the universe, however it reflects with you. If you take up that behavior with any sort of entity, with any sort of energy, why on earth would I ever want to give you anything? It's like, these conflicting signals, right? You're saying you want something, and then the instant you got it, maybe it wasn't exactly what you were visualizing in your head, but this is what you spoke out. And then it comes to you, and it's not perfect, and it's not exactly what you wanted, and it's not the way that you wanted it, but you got it, and you're not recognizing that you've got it. That's where one of the instances of what is called manifestation, or these ideas of manifestation, get their wires crossed, right? And it's the same thing for people. So if you kind of humanize or bring humanity into the mix of this situation, things get very interesting. Let me close this real quick. And let me see if I can see any of the comments coming in. So that's kind of an ideology of like how we take this concept. But let's dive into the moral codes, because I have a lot. I've been doing a deep dive lately, and I am working on a big post that is, it's going to be interesting. And I just want to make sure that it comes out in a way that's diplomatic. And why do I like doing things that's diplomatic? Well, it's not necessarily, hey, Mr. Trauma Talks, by the way, Mr. Trauma Talks himself is in the chat. Thank you for joining, Ra. And as always, you are epic and amazing. And I can't wait to see what you do next. It comes with the consequences. So it's not consequences, right? It's like, it's all in how you take it. Because like, it's making that choice to ask for this item, right? So if you ask for something and it doesn't appear in the way that you want, it's like, okay, well, let me figure out the right way to do it. I receive and I accept. So like today, total chaos busted out with one of, I do dog walking and that stuff. So total chaos happened. The app kind of does this, they're trying to automate everything, and it just sent things on the fritz, which did not work out for the situation. And it was crazy. And instead of being like, oh my gosh, well, I'm just not going to do this and blah, 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 it's all crazy, whatever, I showed up. I still showed up. And, you know, one of the things that I've been working on is healing money wounds. Because a lot of times I'll be like, no, 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 you don't have to pay me. When I'm like asking the universe for money. I'm like, let me put it out there that I improve my finances. And then I turn around and I'm like, no, this is generosity. No, 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 no. Wait, what? So it's like, thank you. Thank you, Rob. And, you know, like attracts like. So you know what I told you. You know what I said. Keep going. Keep going. So when we do that behavior, it's like, you asked for this, and now you're like, no, 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 no. And it's like, fine. Why would I? Why would I? Why? So let me fast forward after doing that little coverage there. And I wanted to cover the universal moral codes. Now, what are the universal moral codes? The universal moral codes are basically morals that are ubiquitous across all cultures. So it doesn't matter where you are, as long as you are human. If something happens or goes counter this moral code, then you are going to get upset. It is going to cause problems. It is going to mess up your day significantly and severely. So when I bring up these codes, it's that idea of like, wow, if, you know, if I breach one of these, I'm going to have a reckoning. Okay, so these are universal outside of laws of religion. These are just like human to human basic moral codes that we get to have with each other. And this came up with a great discussion that happened earlier in this week. I'm going to be doing a follow-up video on that on the Clock app. And hey, Gothfair T, welcome. Talking about the universal moral codes based in human nature. So these are things that we get to respect each other on. And I think like a lot of our society has forgotten to respect each other's humanity in this. And I grew up personally in a space where I felt like my humanity was stripped from me. I felt like I did not have my personhood. And as I kind of dove into unpacking and exploring these, it becomes more apparent. And this is something that I also worked on with identity, and I do support people through uncovering or recovering their identity when it's been shut down for so long by so many people. Society's complicit in that, whether you were raised with that, whatever. It's like we have so much just kind of trying to take away who we really are and our capabilities and our capacity to what we can make happen. I'm going to plug it in my phone over here real quick. So let's go through these universal moral codes based on, hey, possibly Manuel, welcome. Universal moral codes based on human nature. So treat others fairly. This is reciprocity. So that is do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. So if you are doing something that, if you're packing the heat and you can't take it, don't do it. Right? Don't do that in the first place. That's not okay. So that's reciprocity. That's treating people fairly. That is treating others the way that you want to be treated. And I think we lose sight of that often, or we don't understand that our behaviors or things that we do, how they really impact others entirely, So do not harm others. So obviously this is the big one. If you unalive someone, if you hurt someone, they're going to be upset. That's pretty normal, right? If you hurt someone's livelihood, they're going to be upset. That's pretty normal, correct? Right. So, it's like as we go through these are not just individual things to take out of context. This is a complete context within these universal moral codes, because if you're not subscribing to all of them in tandem, then it doesn't really work, right? It kind of gets lost in the mix. So these need to be combined together to make a cohesive understanding of what each one is. So, and this is important to set as we go through the rest of them. So do not harm others. If you're doing something that harms, that physically hurts, that unalives another, that is a problem, right? We know this. Respect others' freedom and choices. So once again, take that into context within do not harm others, because some people are like, well, my freedom and choices include really doing something that is going to mess things up for people. That's not paying attention to everything as it is complete. So that comes with the caveat of the first two moral codes. Treat others fairly and do not harm others within the context, respecting others' freedom and choices. So the next one, and these are universal moral codes for those who are just jumping on right now. So the next one is protect and stay loyal to your group or family. And I think this one is kind of the most challenging one for the modern age. How many people have grown up in a not so fun family dynamic? Hi, me right here. So that's something that I've had to grapple with. That's something that I've had to really learn about. And that's something that I've had to reorient around. So when we come to that, like, protect and stay loyal to those who also care about you, to, those who respect your freedom and choices within the scope of all of this, including do not harm others and treat others fairly, or reciprocity, or doing unto others as you'd have done unto yourself. Respect what is considered sacred or pure. So if I have something of extreme sentimental value and that is disrespected, we're going to throw down. Like, that's not cool, right? So it's the same thing of like the purity quadrant mentioned here, keeping something pure. So I am wearing slippers, and they're My Little Pony slippers, because I don't wear shoes in the household. Shoes track in a lot of nasty stuff. So they stay at the door. They do not get tracked through the household. That keeps the household a little more healthy and a little more friendly for these guys, the kitties. And that is considered a act of purity within this household. Do not wear your shoes in this household. We'll get frustrated, right? So follow and respect rightful authority. Let's talk about that a little bit. So rightful authority, and this is why I've set the template on these universal moral codes. They need to be taken in the full entire context. So if you are to follow and respect rightful authority, that rightful authority best be respecting what is considered sacred and pure, better be protecting and staying loyal to the group or the society or family of which it is being the rightful authority of. Do not harm others. Do not attempt to perpetuate harm intentionally to another within the group for, whatever reason. Granted, obviously, if someone's not fulfilling the obligations of the universal moral codes based on human nature, of course, it's going to get people frustrated. So, it's taking all of this into context together and then treating others fairly. And that kind of is the work of leadership, is to help make sure that there's balance, that there is respect, that these things are working as intended. If anybody gets out of line, of course, they set the tone and the parameter and the scope for things. But if two people commit the same crime and one person gets the favoritism act and another person does not, of course, there's problems. We've seen that in our society in this day and age, where people are being dehumanized for just the color of their skin, how they look, their origins, all that stuff. And this is why there are so many problems, because these are not being upheld. And a lot of people don't even think about the fact that there are universal moral codes based on human nature. And I'm going to come full circle. I got about 15 minutes left. So the last one, so there's about 7 of these. Be honest and keep your word. And that's challenging. I've had my challenges with that. Who hasn't messed up on that? When you do your best to keep your word, like today, I wanted to be on time for this person and I ended up not being on time, and that ended up causing a lot of chaos, and I felt absolutely horrible for it. Things ended up working out, thankfully. The absolute worst did not happen, because it could have been worse. I showed up, handled the situation, supported the person who I let down. And I fully acknowledge that I let that person down. I was dealing with a situation, but that doesn't mean they don't have those feelings, right? Like, I could have that excuse of, well, I was doing this and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, I let you down. I'm going to own that. And I'm going to act in accordance to owning that letdown so that I can make things right. And that is being honest. That is being in integrity. Even if I couldn't keep my word in that situation, I can do what I can to remedy as much as I can to the best of my abilities. And that is acting, that is treating others fairly. That is, respecting what is considered sacred or pure. That is, respecting their authority and listening to them and following, what can I do to make things better? What can I do to solve this problem? What can I do to help? Since I made this mistake, I am the one that it hinges on. I'm going to own up to it. I'm not going to sit here perpetuating excuses. I want to fix it, period. And I think this is where a lot of us get derailed, where if we don't keep our word, we go straight into ego, and we, instead of being like, how can I make this right? How can I make this better? We're like, well, blah, 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 blah. This happened, blah, 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 blah. We're defensive. We're trying to push back on something, and it just makes things worse. It's not treating others fairly. If I did that to, if I had that done to me, if a person failed me or messed up, didn't keep their word, if that happened to me, I would be really frustrated if they're pushing back and being defensive. Teenage daughter. I have a teenager, so I deal with this all the time. So working through it, obviously, I need to hold myself accountable to how I react to that behavior and how we work through it. So it's a very interchangeable and malleable concept with the universal moral codes based on human nature. But, I'm just going to go through this list real quickly, but it's a combination. It's not just, okay, I'm just going to treat people fairly and that's going to be the end all be all. Or I'm going to separate this, like I'm going to have you respect my freedom and choices and autonomy, but even if it hurts someone, it's like, no, that's not how that works. That's not how this moral code works. They are all taken in context. And so as long as you are integrity, as long as you're adhering to or attempting to adhere to all of these as an entire concept. Hey, Dr. X, I'm going through the universal moral codes based on human nature. As long as we take these in context and work with them together, we will have a better, more functional society. And Dr. X, thank you. Good evening as well. Thank you so much. So I'm going to do a video on this later in response to the individual that you supported in the chat. And I just got to thinking, they mentioned self-righteousness as being their like end all be all type of thing for the moral code. But I'm like, what if we look at this, the universal moral codes based on human nature? And that's actually what I felt like that might coincide with what they're saying. Oh yeah. Oh, I need to, okay. So spoiler alert, I do have a box here. I need to send it out. These are your stamps. And there's lots of little goodies in here. So I hope you like candy too. So there's that. Okay, and I still need to finish some artwork for you. I am just way behind and swamped. But yeah, so I was like, instead of something that has a negative context, which is self-righteousness, let's go with the universal moral codes, because what they spoke about as, things that they're like, I will stand up for this. I will not be silenced in this. I will take this to the ends of the earth in, restoring a person's humanity. I was like, well, why don't we let's look at universal moral codes based on human nature. So this is something that, I've thought of a while ago, and I just like kind of did a little more research on it. And so these are treating other fair. Ooh, my phone's about to fall. This is treating others fairly, reciprocity, or treating another as you would want to be treated. This is do not harm others, respect others' freedoms and choices, of course, within context of this entire scope, because, that I think a lot of people are like, respect my freedom and choices while they're doing really nefarious things. And that just doesn't work. And that would be taking these principles and concepts out of context. So protect and stay loyal to your group or family. Respect what is considered sacred or pure, which, since that kind of has that religiosity or religious connotation, it's like, if I say take shoes off within my household, that is a stance for purity or cleanliness within my household. So that is something that we actually do here. And I showed my little pony slippers because they're fun. So going on, follow and respect rightful authority. But once again, rightful authority isn't respect my authority. It is, you have to uphold all of these different protocols to be the rightful authority. If you're not upholding those and taking a stance for those, you're not the rightful authority. You're someone who's monopolizing and manipulating this authority. And also be honest and keep your word. So another very interesting thing has come up, and I'm working on a blog post that is, it's going to be interesting. I am going to be very clear. Some of this is out of my wheelhouse. So some of the research does include AI researching it and helping me to form some of this. But basically, I saw one of, or I've noticed that some of the tech bros are calling for free market economy. And when you know free market economy and you know history, you're like, wow, there's a lot of snake oil things like radium and the radium girls, because there was no regulations on things and people were severely harmed. There was, a certain thing that, a certain soft drink got its name from because there was no regulations. There are so many things like lead in ingestible materials, things of that nature, because we didn't have regulations. And as you know, there's some people in positions that probably shouldn't be in positions that are kind of wanting to go back to that stuff. And so taking that into context and looking at the scope of the situation of like, why are these people really trying to progress our government in this way? Trying to see things from their point of view of like, well, what are they trying to achieve? Is it even achievable? The short answer, TLDR, is no, it's not. Literally, AI was like, yeah, it'll work for like 3 years and then it all goes. And I'm like, yeah. And so I brought in a bunch of different contexts from anthropology, historical data, data on different ruling societies and all that stuff, and was like, okay, let's take all of these into context, even consider things that I'm not considering within this context. What is the realistic trajectory of where things are going right now? And then I also asked, what can we do to resolve this issue? What can we do to overcome these situations? What can we do to work through this? And what could, if there was any shred of possibility for things to work out in a way that actually betters and supports society, what would that be? So this article that I'm working on, and it's literally called "Capitalism is Dead, AI Killed It," unalived it. And so it goes into a lot of different things, but really it's very fascinating. Some things that started coming out to me as I was going through it was that a lot of what came up as to what was missing, what they didn't understand when they're trying to, do these shifts in society, although and in some regard, like, okay, I've hung out with these people, I understand what they're trying to achieve. It's like they didn't run any models because they're just doing this hard and fast and didn't really care about human beings and human autonomy and the universal moral codes of like, if you do things that are counter to human nature, to how we are pre-programmed on a moral standpoint that is ubiquitous between all cultures, you're going to have problems. It is not going to work. And that actually, interestingly enough, came through this, probably because I've already kind of done the research on this, and AI is taking that context. But I like that it all connects, because that's kind of, part of what I'm going for. But it's also I'm going to start pattern recognizing this as I adapt more of this moral code within to my life in a very clear and concise way. So, yeah. So let's see. So I'm just going to give the list, and this is just raw output from AI. This is not with my little nice, oh sweet. This is not with my not with my touch kind of supporting it, because I need to like kind of I just have kind of AI do like a structure, and then I flesh it out. I have it do the bones, and then I flesh it out, because that helps me my brain does not do well with organizing concepts, and it takes me a while to do it. And then the more that I let AI do it, the more that I train myself in this, and the more that I can adapt as I work that mechanism in, and it kind of like, subconsciously embeds itself. So what can you do today within the news and the scope of oh my gosh. Oh, don't even get me started on the whole Antichrist thing, because the more that I work to, oh, oh no, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna have to do it on another account. I'm gonna do like so I have another account on the Clock app, and I am going to make that my fun account where there's going to be conspiracy theories, like many many years ago, like about 15 years ago. Yeah, about 15 years ago, I heard that Teal was the leader of the Illuminati, and I'm like, come on. And when you hear about this stuff and all these things, and you see Bezos's wedding and the celebrities, that you're like, oh, maybe something's interesting here. So that's just for fun, not real at all. That's just like fun conspiracy. I find conspiracy theories like fun, but I don't take them. I take them with a grain of salt. Like things have to reveal themselves. It has to be proven for anything. Obviously, if it's proven, it's not a conspiracy theory. So that's kind of how I roll. But I still have fun with the fantasy of it, and I know that I'm in the fantasy of it. I don't take them as real. So, but yeah, that's something that I heard many years ago. Um, so within the scope of what happened today with that, oh, that stuff happening. So what you can do today, support civic tech oversight. Obviously I have the journal. I don't have it right now. I need to get another copy for myself, which will probably be given away to someone else anyways. I always love giving those away, which by the way, I should probably send one to you, Dr. X, and get your feedback on it. So use the resilience journal to track your own system, join or build sovereign communities, refuse algorithmic dependency, vote and fund ethical interdisciplinary leadership. What else? Let's go through here. I mean, there's definitely a lot of things that need to be. So let's see. That's repeating. There's more that came up. Let me see. Sorry. I'm about to wrap up because I said I'd do 30 minutes. But yeah, he's definitely an extremist. And all right. So here's what must happen. And this is from AI's own, like, I will probably send or put a link so that people can go through this chat to kind of see how I formulated these views and how I utilized AI, and then what the final product is of the blog post. Considering that, I don't know, that's just fun transparency, full transparency stuff. But I did mention names, so I'm kind of like, do I really want to do this? Because I don't want to piss people off. I don't need to do that. I don't want them to, like, I want to keep things diplomatic and not name names, as kind of like going to be the most diplomatic route. But anyways, so where'd it go? Where'd it go? All right. So now here, with the tech bros. So what I had to do is I had it be like, okay, tell me about what these tech bros are trying to accomplish, and will it work, basically? Like, what does this really look like realistically, taking in human nature and human proclivities, taking in what's happening in our society today, taking in what's happening with AI and the progression of tech, and then combine all these things together, figure out things that I'm not thinking of, like extraneous things that may have an impact, like consider, ecological damages and all this other stuff. Okay, bring in all of this, a complete, clear, complete, total context, which most people like to be like, I'm just going to take this piece and I'm going to run with this. And I'm going to think this is great, which is what the tech bros did. They didn't run models. They didn't accommodate for human nature. They did not accommodate for human proclivities. They didn't accommodate for the damage to the environment that is actually going to impact themselves. They didn't take into context anything else but their knowledge in tech and their running of models, which, by the way, on my way home, I listened to this song, which is by the Electric Suns, and it is the Japanese tea ceremony song, which is a taking of Alan Watts' talk, and you can find this on the Tube of You. It takes Alan Watts' talk about the Japanese ceremonial tea. And the talk is literally about this. And I was like, oh, the universe played one on me this time. But it's literally the fact, like, when we dive into these situations and we don't take things in the context of our humanity and connect with nature, connect with ourselves, we're going to mess it up. Okay. So here's the time frame that AI like output for me, because I did this little whole deep dive today. It says between now and 2028, tech elites consolidate power, AI deregulates, systems built for efficiency dominate. We see that with Planeteer, we see that with, these things are happening, right? 2028 to 2032, ecological strain, trust collapse, social fragmentation, AI hits unforeseen limits. That was very interesting to me. I'm not sure what that's going to be or what that's going to look like. Post 2032, breakdown, rebellion, mental health emergencies, the palace falls. Now, I don't think this breakdown is really well done. I don't think it's kind of like, something that should be taken as full on fact. Actually, we already see ecological strain. We already see trust collapse. We already see social fragmentation. Mental health emergencies on the rise. We already see these things happening. So I don't believe this timeline, but it's interesting having that. So here's what must happen. And then I'm going to go into what you can do today. And once again, this was output by AI. Legitimate oversight of AI, not private control disguised as progress. So let's not let this private control be disguised as progress, which is what's happening right now. Okay. Federated, transparent governance built with humans, not for them. So right now, obviously, things are being built for us, and we're already rallying against it. Like, it's not working. Social safety infrastructure. So this was the next thing that came up, which I know that the tech bros are like, hard no, this is not how it works. But when you take into context what it is that they're creating in our society, the rising of AI, the lack of jobs, their whole idea of a utopian world had no modeling or no foreseen consequences or no understanding of cause and effect, like in the real world. Like, you can model in a system and be like, oh, great. But you have to prove that model in the real world that it's going to take. And there are too many factors that they did not consider. And so that was part of the discussion, is like, well, what are they not considering in this? What could make this work? And when I'm seeing them rally around that one bill that just passed and be like, we need capitalism. And I'm like, capitalism it's done. It's done. AI has unalived it. Like, it is. And so, and this was output, by AI, social safety infrastructure, UBI. So that's universal basic income. This is what must happen for society to have stability and to really survive and not completely collapse at this moment. So I'm going to do that again. Social safety infrastructure, UBI, universal basic income, upskilling, mental health systems, ecological accountability. AI cannot outpace planetary limits, which means the limits of our environment, of the earth, of what we need, food, water, shelter, those sorts of things. Human first meaning systems to complement AI, not replace them. So a lot of what's happening right now is, you can see this in what Doge did, is like, let's take humans out of the equation and let's act like we're the end all be all for everything and everyone, even though it's a bunch of straight white men, right? Like, they don't have the insight necessary to make these calls, and they're going to mess it up, which they are, which was very funny to me to see someone being like, one of the tech pros being like, yay, capitalism, wee. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, you think there's going to be capitalism when we have AI and these AI structures that are moving people out of the way, that are being people last. And you think we have, it's done. It's done. We hit the late stage, and it's done. Unless these things happen, it's done. So, and I know that they're very much against universal basic income and mental health systems. Like, they think people, well, they don't really know much about human nature and people in general. So what can we do? Engage in civic tech oversight. So begin doing that. Begin getting into these areas of being like, hey, I see this problem, and you have to make it viable for them to act on it. That is the hardest part. That's why I suggest the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, which is all about seeing people's needs. It's a really crappy title. I despise the title, but it's a great book so that you can start crafting win-wins. Because if you're not crafting the win-win, that makes them go, oh, I like this. You're not going to it's not going to happen. I'm going to lay that as ground rules right now. I'm of course angling to support the growth and support sharing a resilience journal that you can see somewhere. Click on my icon and you can see my links and all that stuff. That's just to help build emotional resiliency. Yes, it's worked for me, as long as if you take it in the right way, because it's all about, and I think people take this in the wrong way and, try to actually manipulate people. It's not about manipulating people. It's literally like seeing the needs, seeing the humanity in people. And that's at least what I took from it. There's people that are like, oh, the 48 laws of power. I'm not about that. I haven't read that book. I don't even want to touch that book. But yeah, it's like seeing the needs basis. Okay, what does this person need? And maybe I'm augmenting it also by the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Just like, people need to have their needs. Okay, what do they need? All right, well, what can we work on this? And then what I grabbed from that book was that it's all about creating the win-win. Okay, if I give you this, then, we can work this together, and then we're good. Like, everybody's happy at the end of the day. And that's kind of, is that an earthquake? That's kind of what it's about, or that's what I got from it personally, and it depends on the person. Some people are going to take it in a nefarious way and not make it work. And then, so here's, let me finish this first, and then I'll touch on the psychological studies. So, create or support local co-ops and community-based networks, which is huge. I know that there's some people on the Clock app that are doing that, and demand ethical leadership and vote accordingly, and also support your vote. So this was something that I stepped right into right after things started, taking that trajectory. So it's very convoluted at this point. It's like, it doesn't even make sense to me. Well, what does that look like? How do we get into this? How do we actually make this actionable besides, the journal that I wrote? But that's a whole nother discussion. But yeah, so, and yeah, there are people who are already on the Clock app that are doing that. If you're here on YouTube and want to follow me over there, please do so. And, I share posts a lot. So, an interesting thing about, and Dr. X is bringing up over here, the Dale Carnegie book has been rigorously debunked by psychological studies. So, and which I was touching upon, that I have actually used it in a very positive way to create win-win situations where it's like, if I want to get something done, or if I need to get something, it's like, okay, let's look at your needs and let's see what we can do to work together to meet your needs. I meet my needs. Everybody's happy. It's the win-win. And it is very, it's not easy. It's not easy at all. It's a whole thing to make that happen. But if we start considering, people as human beings, which I hate the title of that book, it really sucks. But if we see the humanity in people and be like, okay, we have human needs, like, and I'm not talking about the bound chicka bound bound ones, okay? Like, as humans, we need to be seen, heard, loved, those sorts of needs. And so it's like when we meet those needs of respecting each other, of, honoring each other, of, the universal moral code based on human nature, when we fulfill that obligation, we can make amazing things happen. And then here's an interesting thing. So, Dr. X, if you're still on, you're gonna like this because this is kind of funny. Um, since I've been doing a lot of posts recently about religion and how a lot of Christians are not actually Christian, they're just using using the idea of God to fulfill their will, and are, closer to atheists than actual religious people. Chopping chili peppers, yes, spicy. Um, Dang, that's what I love, spicy food. Um, so one fun thing that I did, which is interesting, because I was like, let's do a personality profile and assessment on Jesus. Oh my, they are not going to be happy about that at all, because uh yeah, I was like, let's do it through the lens. So I started it through the lens of psychology. And when I did the psychological personal profile, it was like Jesus hit the markers for the perfect human being. And I'm like, it went into Maslow, it went into Jung, and it was like, according to these psychological traits, he's perfect. So I'm like, did psychology literally build the what would be considered normalcy off of Jesus? Which I'm like, they probably did, which is very interesting that that kind of came up in this little. I've been doing just deep dives, knowledge deep dives, and using AI for that. Um, so let me see. I'm going to do this whole. I don't want to. I'll do the whole readout. I'll hang on till 7 p.m. Okay. So, um, let me share the request. According to Christian biblical scripture only, please create a full personality assessment and psychological profile of Jesus Christ as a person. I only want you to use the Bible to inform the assessment, but output through the lens of modern psychology, not theology. All right. So the first time I was like, well, these theologians, I'm like, no, no. Let's get the human essence from Jesus. So here's the psychological personality profile of Jesus based solely on biblical scripture, interpreted through the lens of modern psychology without theological interpretation or religious tradition. Whew, thank God for that. And this is based solely on the canonical gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, John through the lens of modern psychology theory. Attachment style, secure attachment. Evidence, he formed deep, emotional, intimate relationships with his disciples, showed vulnerability, yet maintained strong personal boundaries. He both gave and received love freely without signs of anxiety or avoidance. Interpretation, exhibited balance in emotional closeness and interdependence consistent with secure attachment. Personality type, big 5 traits. Openness to experience, high. Use parables, metaphor, and paradoxes. Yeah. Challenged norms. Embrace complexity and abstract moral reasoning. Conscientiousness, high. Show disciplined routine. Dedication to mission. Planned movement strategically. Extroversion, moderate to high. Actively sought out crowds, public speaking, but also needed solitude. Comfortable in both high social and low social energy contexts. Agreeableness, very high. Demonstrated consistent empathy, forgiveness, and non-retaliation. Oh my goodness. Sounds really woke, doesn't he? Neuroticism, very low. Maintained emotional regulation under extreme stress. Rare emotional outbursts. Were principled and controlled, not impulsive. Emotional intelligence, exceptionally high. Actively perceived others' inner states, adapted communication style by audience, displayed empathy, compassion, and patience, managed personal emotions under duress. Temperament: choleric, phlegmatic, blend. Choleric, leader, assertive, demonstrated boldness in confronting power, high agency, self discipline, mission driven behavior. Phlegmatic, peaceful, compassionate, maintained inner calm, empathized with outcasts, modeled peacemaking. Cognitive style: integrative, dialectical thinking, frequently held two opposing truths in tension. Encourage lateral thinking through parables and paradoxes. Emphasize transformation over compliance. Conflict style: assertive and nonviolent, confronted injustice without violence, spoke truth directly, even at a personal cost, did not avoid conflict, but managed it constructively and strategically. Leadership style: transformational and servant leadership. I'm going to kind of go through this a little faster. Stress response, coping mechanisms, primary coping style, emotional focused and meaning focused. Resilience traits: high distress tolerance, even under betrayal, abandonment, and injustice. Strong internal locus of control. Maintain focus on personal mission despite the external opposition. Demonstrated post-traumatic growth, empowered others even in his final hours. Moral development. This is Kohlberg stages. Self-concept, I and identity, high in individuated and self-aware, demonstrated clear sense of purpose and values, identity not derived from public opinion, but internal conviction, boundaries and autonomy, possible DSM-5 evaluations, no pathology present. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, self-actualization achieved. Jungian types, the self, the sage. Summary: Jesus, based on the psychological interpretation of biblical accounts, okay, Obi, demonstrates high-functioning self-actualized personality with strong emotional intelligence, unwavering moral principles, and relational integrity. His psychological profile shows no clinical impairments, high adaptability, exceptional resilience, and a personality that balances authority with humility. He would likely be associated today as a rare example of psychological wholeness. So that rundown kind of made me believe that they might have actually developed the optimal psychological profile off of Jesus, which is also something that was very fascinating to me. But also, I went on to ask AI about the personality profile for marketing traits. And this is something that you can ask AI yourself. I highly suggest that you do this to know what information it has on you. For me personally, sometimes I use AI to help expose things that I have not been willing to look at, but that takes humility, that takes transparency, and that takes really being willing to take in that data. It's kind of fun using AI as like a third party to kind of get an understanding on, you know, what you need to work on, or what blind spots, what are you not seeing, what are you not acknowledging within yourself, and what's going on with you personally. So that's kind of fun. But yeah, when I did the marketing profile, it literally called Jesus woke. So that'll be another video that'll come out, just to kind of add the so-called Christians that do not know Jesus at all. So that is it for tonight, though, folks. Thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful evening. Maslav Ormond comes from Oh, I did not. I had no idea of that. Yeah, I've just started to kind of get into Maslow's work, and it's been interesting. So that makes a lot of sense. The Ogala teepee. So Maslow is he basically took his studies from indigenous Ogala Lakota peoples that he spent time with to build them, which I'm not sure if he stole it. Yeah, so he did not credit them with their knowledge, which is so did I tell you that I started with the universal the yeah, the universal moral codes. I think there are those need to be really instilled in our society because that what are you oh wait, what are you doing? Leave that alone. Because that needs to happen. That needs to be a thing. Okay. Because yeah. All right. Well, my live is ending. Appreciate you all. I've been on for an hour. And I will bid you all a good night and thank you for that info, Dr. X. You are such a wealth of knowledge. Thank you so much. You're amazing. And yes, I still need to finish the artwork, but at least I can give you like a little piece of artwork so far and then, lots of other fun stuff. So look for that coming soon. All right. Bye, everybody. Let me shut down over here. And then for those over here on YouTube, thank you for joining in. Check out the Resilience Journal. You will see that in the description below this. I would love to hear your thoughts on everything that we talked about, from the universal moral code based in human nature and to what you think the tech bros are actually trying to advance, or what is the agenda that's being advanced in our society right now, all the way to your thoughts of Jesus's psychological profile. Did they base or build psychology on Jesus? So would love to hear your thoughts on that, and I will see you next week. Hopefully I will get this up and pre-program so that you all can, click that button to be notified when I'm coming on. So I love you all. Thank you for joining, everybody. Thank you to Raw. Thank you to Midnight Queen. Thank you to everyone who has joined in and made this such a great experience tonight. Is this even up anymore? Okay, there we go. All right. So I was on other screens, but thank you everybody for joining in. Have a good one. I love you. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get more people here and would love to hear your thoughts in the chat. All right. Bye, everybody.